The Pittsburgh Steelers have been in the news recently because Adam Schefter, when he went on the Pat McAfee show, he said, we know the Steelers are gonna go out and get some type of quarterback, whether that's Ryan Tannehill, whether that's Russell Wilson, whether that's Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin's a big fan of Justin Fields. We'll keep that in mind during the offseason and in the coming weeks. So naturally, when you throw out a talent like Justin Fields' name being associated with another team, and of course there's the rumors about the Bears possibly trading him for as high as a second-round pick, your ears perk up a little bit. And that's a name where if I'm a Steelers fan, it gets my attention. Do I think Justin Fields is the best quarterback in the world? No, but he's certainly exciting. He's certainly dynamic. So Ziggy, if you were sitting in Jack's shoes or the shoes of any Steelers fan and you hear the name Justin Fields, is that someone that you'd be interested in pursuing?
It's tough not to be interested in Fields. I mean, you look at Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett is a good player, but he's not really elite at anything, right? There's no one trait you could point at and say, Kenny Pickett, he's one of the best in the NFL at that. Justin Fields, whatever his shortcomings are, and he's got some shortcomings. We've talked about it on this show before.
He does.
He is elite at something in the NFL. There are maybe one or two quarterbacks, if that are as good as running as him. And frankly, like if you compare him to someone like Lamar Jackson, he still comes out looking pretty good. You've got a Steelers offensive line that's incredible at run blocking, right? You've got strong running backs. And I think you can I see a vision where the Steelers do what the Ravens did in the early years of Lamar Jackson. Use the play action to set up straightforward reads to guys like Deontay Johnson. You have a really powerful running game. And you have Justin Fields put up 1,500 yards on the ground.
Would you be comfortable giving Fields a long-term contract, though?
So you can't. Here's the thing, and this is why trading for Fields is difficult. I'm wary to give up too much draft capital because then Justin Fields' agent is immediately on the phone with your front office saying, hey, you just gave a first-round pick. You just gave up a second-round pick. Do you want to let that go to waste by letting my guy walk? So if you're a team, you have to be willing to negotiate tough, be willing to use franchise tags. And if it doesn't work out, not sign him to a long-term deal. But look, if Justin Fields hits and has a great year, you've got to be happy to offer him something. The Steelers just don't have a better way to acquire talent at quarterback. You know, it's not like they've got the number one overall pick. And with Mike Tomlin coaching, you aren't getting the number one overall pick.
Yeah, it's going to come down to whether or not you trust Kenny Pickett. And from the sample size that we've seen, Pickett has his moments, and there was all the hoopla about the fourth quarter comebacks and his fourth quarter statistics. But when you really step back and look at it, if your starting quarterback struggling as much as Kenny Pickett was for the first 3 quarters of most games, that's a problem at the NFL level. And what's exciting about Fields is that he is one of those guys where I know the passing has been an issue. And at times he usually looks really good. That ceiling for Justin Fields is as high as it is for most guys in the league. Like Ziggy, let's pretend Justin Fields hits his ceiling. Well, we're talking about like a borderline top 10 quarterback here, right? So probably like 7 to 10.
He's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, the upside is awesome and intriguing. Going into next year, I asked you before the show started, I'd rather have Justin Fields than Kenny Pickett. You would as well?
And Justin Fields has proven to have more talent. And look, here's the thing for the Steelers. They absolutely have to add competition for Kenny Pickett. Mason Rudolph is not the right kind of competition. Ryan Tannehill is not the right kind of competition. No. Like, you want to bring in someone who's really good. And the fit with Arthur Smith, I think, isn't super neat. Right? Like, Justin Fields has never shown an ability to throw deep balls in the play action game. But the Bears also haven't asked this of him a lot. You don't know what you're doing. So I think if the Steelers are trying to revitalize the offense and really put forth something that can match their defense, you improve the offensive line. Get some guys who can pass block a little bit. Dan Moore, I'm sorry, you have to go. Great run blocker, but arguably the worst pass protecting left tackle in the league. And you try and make things work. You bring in a new offensive coordinator, which they did, and you have a real competition and see who wins.
I mean, think about the quarterbacks they rolled out last year. It was Kenny Pickett. It was Mason Rudolph. It was Mitch Trubisky. I mean, the Steelers had competent quarterback play throughout the year. This team made the playoffs. If Justin Fields is there, I have my doubts with him. But there have been games, like think about Washington, where he looked awesome. And if you can get that out of Justin Fields, I do think the Steelers is a good organization with a good culture. Now you're talking about possibly a huge reward. And even if you're able to do it for a third round pick, I love it.
Yeah.
Second rounder, a little more hesitant. But a third round pick to take a swing, how many third round picks really work out for teams?
I mean, for me, it's less. There are third round picks that work out, but the upside that you're getting with Justin Fields is enormous. And the question that Steelers and Steelers fans have to ask themselves isn't like, how excited am I to have Justin Fields in a vacuum? There are a lot of better options. The question is, do we have a realistic way to acquire more talent than Justin Fields? If they want to trade 3 first-round picks, they can get someone more talented than Justin Fields. But that's not how the Steelers roll. They're not going to do that. So I think adding Fields, it's one of the better fits. There are a couple other teams like the Falcons that I could see making a move. You don't want to get into too deep a bidding war. You shouldn't be trading something like a first-round pick for him. But there is definitely an opportunity here. And the Steelers make a lot of sense.
Steelers are the favorite right now. According to DraftKings, the odds are minus 125
stuff. The DraftKings stuff is not tracking. I generally trust betting markets. The offseason draft pick, like Blake Corum is minus 100 to go to the Wolves or to go to the Chargers. This is ridiculous. Second or third round running back should be minus 100 to go to any team.
Well, hey, right now, minus 125 to go to the Steelers, staying with the Bears, plus 200 for Fields. I know my boss, Colin Coward, said he would be very wary if he were Justin Fields to going to Pittsburgh because you're going to a defensive head coach and Mike Tomlin. The way that organization...
Justin Fields needs an opportunity to start, and he might not get many more of those. There are not a lot of teams that are clamoring to start him. A chance to have a starting job for much of the year. And again, it's not like they don't have weapons, right? You've got Jalen Warren, you've got Deontay Johnson, you've got Muth, you got Pickens. Like, it's hardly the worst situation. There's a new offensive coordinator in town. Like, I'd rather have that than, say, Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, Jerry Duloc from the Post-Gazette, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette said, I quote, "I can't imagine Fields wanting to sign with the team where he won't be the number one QB. And I don't believe the Steelers are in the market for a number one QB. I don't know Jerry's sources here, but I actually disagree with both of them. I think Pittsburgh has their eyes on, is definitely looking around because you didn't get what you wanted from Pickett last year. You're going into year 3 now. Teams are less patient than they used to be. It's no longer the world where, when Christian Ponder was with the Vikings, I remember going into year 3 after horrible quarterback play for 2 years. I'm sitting back going, all right, third year breakout, like, let's go. You're not seeing that patience anymore.
Well, I mean,
and on top of go ahead.
Kenny Pickett hasn't shown you anything to justify that patience.
Well, no, he hasn't.
Started 24 games. He's thrown 13 touchdowns and 13 interceptions.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that you used to have patience where even if you didn't see it, teams are still hopeful, and usually got to that third year. Now, if you're not showing it by year 1, I mean, Josh Rosen was out of the league very quickly. like Josh Rosen did not play many games before he was gone. And then Justin Fields, if he were going to go to Pittsburgh, he would be the starting quarterback. There's no world where Fields goes to Pittsburgh and is not the starting quarterback week 1. I'd be stunned to see it. Another quarterback, though, whose name is kind of starting to come up in Steelers circles.
One we're familiar with.
One that we're very familiar with, and one that I love Kirk Cousins. He is just on my Mount Rushmore of favorite football players of all time. I mean, him, Peterson, Harvin, and maybe someone else in there. Like, Kirk Cousins has made it for me. Let's see what we got here. Mike Florio, talking about the Steelers' potential interest in Kirk Cousins, said, "I was talking to some people last week who seemed to be intrigued by the possibility of the Steelers making a play for Kirk Cousins. Those people are very close to, if not within, the Cousins camp. There's an acknowledgement that it could happen. The Falcons and Steelers are the 2 teams that I think the Cousins camp is keeping an eye on."
I'm sorry, what is it very close to, if not within the Cousins camp? What does that mean?
I think it means that there are people who are very close to Kirk Cousins or associated with him directly.
So we can set the Florio stuff aside, I think, because Florio he's a gossip monger.
There we go. True. Ziggy versus
it does
media.
But setting that aside, it makes a lot of sense. I think there's a reason we said the Steelers and the Falcons are teams that make sense for Fields. Those are both teams that are in pretty desperate needs for a quarterback and are interested in an upgrade. And I think it's interesting you're getting 2 guys who are stylistically so far apart being mocked to both teams. right? Kirk
Completely
Cousins,
different. Yep.
Yeah. Justin Fields, your worry is, can he deliver the ball on time? Kirk Cousins, the concern is the guy going to rupture his Achilles? Can this guy like walk after rupturing his Achilles?
Yeah. Can he move if if you have Myles Garrett bearing down on him?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins has 958 career rushing yards in 11 seasons.
Think about the guys you have coming after you in the AFC North. You have the entire Ravens defense. You have Myles Garrett and that ridiculous Browns defense. Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson's still in Cincinnati, right? I was trying to remember if he had if he's becoming a free agent soon. So yeah, this is a tough division, the AFC North, and you can see a world where Kirk Cousins goes to the Steelers and just gets absolutely lit up behind that offensive line. That's what we were talking about before we started, is whether or not you could realistically build up that line enough to protect Kirk and give him a chance, because we've seen countless times when that Viking line was trash, Kirk doesn't stand a shot. But if you give him time, he'll pick you apart. And I actually think, dude, and that Steeler offense with Pickens, with Deontay Johnson, like you said, the weapons are good. If you're able to just shore up the line a little bit with the quarterbacks the Steelers had this year, you give them Kirk Cousins. Would it shock me if they had gone on a run to the AFC Championship game? Kirk is playing the best football of his career this year.
No, yeah, I mean, you look at what Arthur Smith was able to accomplish with Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, right? Isn't Kirk Cousins just kind of better Ryan Tannehill? Like their play styles,
much better.
Yeah, no, much like their play styles are pretty similar. Tannehill runs a fair bit more, but even setting that aside, I mean, if you're describing the Arthur Smith offense quickly, it's run the ball a lot, set up play action, take deep, accurate shots to a receiver. I mean, George Pickens could put up 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns with Kirk Cousins throwing.
Oh yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football, in my opinion, and no matter who's throwing in the ball, he's a machine. But I do think having Kirk Cousins be his starting quarterback for the last 3 years has been huge. I mean, Kirk is one of the best guys in the league at delivering the ball, and you saw that a lot this year when Josh Dobbs was in, when Nick Mullins was in. Go back and watch those games. There are a number of throws that are just a little behind Hawkins. I mean, dude, TJ Hawkinson would go up and just get shot in the ribs every single time. But there are overthrows. That's how Jefferson got hurt against the Raiders. It's always a little bit off, where when Kirk is quarterback, I mean, it's on the money. He's hitting people in stride. That's the difference between the elite quarterbacks in the league and your average to below average, is making that 3-inch difference up.
But on the other hand, I mean, Kirk Cousins is going to want a lot of money from the Steelers, because he's the kind of guy who can demand it, right? Justin Fields, I mean, you talk about worrying about handing Justin Fields a contract. Kirk Cousins is going to want that contract now, coming off an injury.
Steelers doesn't make bad deals.
Yeah, no, the Steelers are projected $14 million over the cap. Now, there's ways to make money for a Kirk Cousins deal, but that involves doing things like restructuring TJ Watt, committing multiple years down the line for Kirk Cousins coming off his career's by far biggest and worst injury, right? It means having to make some tough decisions about guys like Cam Hayward and Allen Robinson. I guess Allen Robinson's not really a hard decision.
Yeah, Allen Robinson.
I just mean, like, signing Kirk Cousins requires a big financial commitment. Justin Fields requires a big draft capital commitment. And Ryan Tannehill requires a big Kenny Pickett commitment. So no matter what the Steelers do, they're making a big commitment to some quarterback they're bringing in. It's going to be really interesting to see who it is.
If you had to rank them, let's pretend you're a Steeler fan. How would you rank it between Cousins, Fields, Pickett? Just leave Tannehill out of there for who you want as your starting quarterback.
Tannehill's clearly 4.
Yeah.
That is Arthur Smith's revenge. So number 3, I think Steelers fans probably aren't going to like this. I think it's Kenny Pickett. Rolling in with him as your projected starter next season means something has gone wrong. Unless you bring in competition and he really shows them up, you can't ride with him.
I'm with
Number 2, I think Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is the better option for next year's quarterback play, but I worry about the injury. I worry that he's not going to be himself, because that Viking season, as you say, was the best of his career. But that should make you wonder whether he's going to be able to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1, Justin Fields. He'll cost you some draft capital, but he's got elite upside. He's still pretty young. I can see them building an offense around him without having to completely overhaul the team.
Yeah, you're taking a risk there. Do I think it would work? Probably not. But
I mean, again, if you're the Steelers, what else do you do? Right? Do you just...
You're taking a swing.
At a certain point, I know that they say they're happy with Tomlin. I know they say they're happy constantly going like 9-8 or 10-6 and not winning in the playoffs. 10-7, excuse me. But like that, I don't believe for a second that they've grown complacent. And if they have grown complacent, the fans should riot. That's not to say you have to blow everything up, but you have to be constantly looking to upgrade at quarterback if you don't have one of those guys.
Yep. And I think that both those guys would be an upgrade over Pickett.